Hello, I'm Sarge Smith, of course, as you can tell by the YouTube name. This is the ranking of the kills in the Hills Have Eyes franchise. I'm including Mind Ripper, so for those of you that haven't seen that, there's a few extra kills in this that you haven't even heard of. I'd recommend watching that movie first. It's on Plex. And there's some pretty gruesome events that take place in this franchise, obviously, so trigger warning for all that kind of stuff. Obviously, if you've seen them all, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not sure how many of these ranking of kills and franchises I'm gonna do, because I did Scream because the fifth one came out. Now I'm doing this one because I just marathoned them all and I did other videos on them too. And I have a bunch of these that are not me talking, that are just the kills all rapid, that are like 3 years outdated, so yeah, there's that. So I'm gonna probably redo a bunch of those specific franchises at some point. This one I don't think I even did like that, because I don't think I had seen Mind Ripper at the time I made that video. But we have 53 placements on this list. More kills, but there's people that die at the same time, and then there's just bodies that are all found at the same time. So there's 53 placements on this list. Let me know what any other horror franchises you want me to do the kills ranked in, even if it's one of the ones I did 2 years ago, because I don't. None of those are accurate anymore, to my knowledge. All right, so without further ado, we're gonna go into the Hills Have Eyes kills ranked. Oh god. Like I said, 53 placements, and number 53 is a stillborn baby. At the beginning of Hills Have Eyes 2 from 2007, we see the stillbirth, and then it's ripped out by a mutant. I don't remember who. I would say Hades probably, and then she's hit in the head with a rock, and her death, or a bone, and her death is number 52, because these are the only two kills in the franchise that I hate. So yeah, for 52, she's tied up, and we see her give birth to her mutant rape baby. She's been tied up for at least 9 months, and she was probably raped the whole time. And she's only put out of her misery after she gives birth and is completely wrecked. And then she's hit with a fucking bone, and like the impact is brutal, but it's just nothing about that scene is worth it, you know? Nothing, like, it's just repulsive. And yeah, they're the only kills that I actually hate. And number 51 would be our first kill from the remake, which is just some guy that's dragged behind the truck with the 3 opening kills. We don't see him die, we just see him dragged along with the people that we did just see die, which obviously there's a nothing kill. We don't even meet this person, doesn't matter. He exists so that shot has symmetry. And in that respect, I think that it was worth it just to have this character here. I don't know. At number 50, we have a grouping of kills that I almost just didn't put in the list, but knowing that I don't like the other two below it more, probably part of why I did put it on the list, and that would be Freezer Full of Bodies from the remake. Same vein as the last one, which was just another person in the remake we never met, and we just see their bodies. And I count about 3 bodies in there. There's probably more, but I'm not going to bother trying to number them out, because, yeah. Because number 49 would be the same thing in the next movie, which would be Hills of Ice 2, and that would be just them finding all the corpses in the cave, and then Crank flips out on... God, I always call him Renouille. What is his name? Hansel. So, that scene with all those corpses, the ones that aren't people we've already met and have died, those all go here. I just discovered that when you hit shitty leaf with tobacco mixed together and then drink Bargs, it kind of tastes like burnt popcorn. Anyway, number 48, Hazmat 3, which is the third guy in the hazmat suit to die in the opening of the remake, which he's just dragged behind a rock. And then you see him in the truck. And that slight off-screen drag behind a rock ups him above corpses just found. And other than that, he's the same as the other guy on that truck. Because I guess dragging 4 bodies behind a truck looks more intimidating than 2. And you can't do an odd number without it, because then you'll fuck the symmetry up. And the movie's just shot great. So, number 47 is our first kill from The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, which would be Foster, who's just, his ankles are grabbed and he's dragged below the bus, and then he's just killed with an axe, or a hatchet, I mean. And it's completely off screen, but he's a far more important character than anyone he's above, so that's kind of equals it out. Our number 46, we have Ruby from The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. She's pushed over on a rock, and it's, first of all, it's such a disrespectful way to kill one of the main characters, and the only main character in this movie that was a main character in the first movie, besides Pluto. To push her over on a fucking rock that hits her temple, and that's what kills her, is disrespectful. And another negative is that the actress felt the same way and then decided not to act it. She acted like she got knocked out, and she's still moving in the last frame. And it is a kill, but it's not acted as if it was. And it's that, coupled with disrespect, lands it here. Ruby's death is pretty bad. I mean, like, obviously, the remake did it better. 5 is another kill from Part 2, Jane, and Reaper grabs her and then just kind of hugs her, and they add in these bone-crunching noises, but it's pretty clear that that's not tight enough of a squeeze, and she's all up, and it's just ridiculous. It's funny. It's not a good kill at all. Number 44, repeating my favorite number, would be Sniffer. And he's called Grabber, but he's also called Sniffer. I don't know. He's the second mutant in The Hills Have Eyes 2 to just get shot by the military people. He's shot by Crank. And it's in the dark, and it's just getting shot with a machine gun. So that's where this lands. Up next at 43 is Stabber. Real. Ugh. I mean, at least these names aren't really based off of the deformities. I mean, I guess Sniffer is, but Grabber isn't, and Stabber isn't. But most of the killers in the remake and its sequel, their names are basically just insults to their deformities, which is fucked up. I didn't name these characters, so. But yeah, that is pretty fucked up. But yes, Stabber, he also, why is he called Stabber? He has a cleaver. You whack with that. You don't stab. Whatever. And then he gets shot with a machine gun by multiple people. Crank gets the last shot in because he shoots once more after everyone's done, and says something about, yeah, bitch, America, or something like that. It's ridiculous. Again, the kill is low just because he's just shot with a machine gun. It's above the other one because this time it's in daylight. Number 42, we have Harry from the second movie, and a rock is shoved on him after a very, in my opinion, amazing scene where he dodges the traps with the ropes. But the kill itself, the rock, they could have sped the frames up a couple more frames, and it would have been higher maybe, but the rock falls so slowly once it is on him. And then you get the close up of his arm dying, which is neat. But yeah, if the rock impact was more believable, it would probably be higher, but as is, it lands here. Alright, and number 41 is our first kill from the original movie, and that is Mercury, who the dog shoves him off a cliff. And Beast is top tier dogs in horror movies. But yeah, this kill's just dude falling off cliff in the dark. And he's like the least memorable villain from the first movie because he dies pretty soon after being introduced, which, not a good look. I mean, the other kills that are just like this one not coming up for a while shows you the difference between uh, this kill with an important character and this kill without an important character, and it's not that good with just this dude. Up next, we have a off-screen kill, which is just a guy named Han or Han. I think it's Han actually, cause yeah, no, it's Han. Cause anyway, uh, he's on screen and then he's off screen, and the next time we see him, his upper half is lying on the floor, and his lower half is not. And I love that. Like, it's pretty gory, but it is an off-screen kill, so it's got to go here. And the character was only really in like one scene earlier. It's still more than we got with a few of the characters that are lower. We have our first kill from Mind Ripper, and it is literally the first kill in Mind Ripper, and it's Frank, and he is grabbed by Thor, the villain, which is underrated villain, grabbed, and he's crushed like Jane was, but this time he's supposed to be like super humanly like jumped up with like this steroid virus thing, sci-fi thing, and so it makes more sense. Plus, there's a lot more blood, and yeah, he's grabbed and crushed and then like thrown around, and it's in a pretty tense scene. It's the first scene with the monster, which he's really looks just like a bodybuilder, but like you can tell that he's enhanced throughout the whole movie, and then towards the end, the makeup is pretty tight. I mean, it just covers up his ears and extends his forehead, but that whole mouth thing is amazing. The next kill, the other kill in that scene, Larry's death is different, but he runs with the other two. But when like first Joanne and Alex get through the door, and Alex starts shutting the door before Larry's in, and so he gets caught halfway between it, and they have to try and grab him. And it's mostly just her trying to grab him, and he dies there, presumably from like his legs. Like it has to be from the legs down somehow that he dies, and then it's dragged in. And then later you see him on the floor with, like, his head fucked up and, like, missing parts of it. Like, his brains was taken out. And that, finding his body later is why he's so high. Because I like that image. But if we didn't find him later and it was just that scene where he's dragged in, it probably would be lower, but yeah. Screen kill, and this is Big Brain. Again, I did not write these fucking names, but he has... Jason has it. Hydra something. His head's enlarged, full of water, and he's in a chair, like, bubbling down. And, you know, if I was in Doug's position, once I got done with Pluto, I would have then beaten that fucker with the bat. Like, maybe they didn't do that because they didn't want the hero killing someone in a wheelchair like that. Or not a wheelchair, but chair-bound. But in my opinion, you know, once you killed half my family and taken my baby, then you're all on my hit list. All of you. Except Ruby, because she saved the baby, but I don't know how that would have went otherwise. I don't know. But I don't want to get to there. It's a dark spot to go. So, yeah. I hate this character, because he is the one that walkie-talkies and says, kill the baby, and at that point I'm like, oh, you motherfucker. And then Beast, favorite dog in horror, attacks this fucker. I mean, it's off screen, but like, it's enough. It's a good moment. I think I got the numbers wrong. Big Brain is 36, but 35 is another kill from the original, which would be Ethel, who gets shot and then later bleeds out. And yeah, it's pretty tragic. The gunshot's pretty realistic, which is different from the remake, but that kill is a lot higher. And I think the main thing detracting from it this time around in the original is just the emotions not being as much there. But also, yes, she's shot and then she just bleeds out later. speaking of just bleeding out later, number 34 is Delmar, who, again, he's in that scene with Sniffer, and Sniffer shoots him a couple times, and then Crank shoots that fucker, and then Delmar's like, it was just a shoulder wound, but little does they know, he also got hit in the lung. And then later, when they find all those bodies, and Crank starts freaking out on Hansel, then he's like, don't freak out, which he keeps telling him throughout the whole movie, and now he's like bleeding out and like internally, and he dies while Crank's freaking out. And the other two are already like they weren't closer with him than they were with anybody else. They liked him, but at this point so many people died and they're soldiers, so the other two are reacting like in that vein, but Crank is freaking out because it was his best friend. And I think it's done very appropriately, and I like that scene. But again, just shot, bled out later. It's this low. I looked at my notes to see who was next, and I'm like, who the fuck is Paul? Oh yeah, Run away. Run away? That guy's up next. He gets hit in the head with an axe. And yeah, it's pretty funny, and it's pretty cool, and it's pretty gruesome. We have Redding, and in the beginning of the movie, he's stabbed in the shoulder and thrown off a cliff, but I'm not really counting that as part of this, because they find him so much later that it doesn't matter to me. What matters is that he takes a gun, and they're like, how do we get off this hill? And he's like, simple. Classic, terrifying. It's kind of doing what the remake of Texas does, but not nearly as good, where a survivor of the horrific events basically shows that the only way out of the situation is to kill yourself before you're put through the situation. And it's right after he tells them all this horrible MO, and it's pretty dark. We have our first of 3 deaths of Pluto, and it's from part 2. And again, it's literally the same kill as Mercury, but this time, because it's Pluto, it's way higher. Beast knocks him off a fucking cliff, finishing his job that we saw in a flashback. The dog has a flashback. I love that. Probably the best part of that movie. I mean, I love Cass, but yeah, that flashback. Okay, but this kill, again, it's just a guy getting knocked off a cliff. It being Pluto is what makes it this high. I think that it's done better. I think it's filmed better. In this time, we see more of his landing. Like, there's rocks here, and he goes... The crop isn't the best, but it is filmed better than the other movie, where it just kind of filmed, like, darkness. But, yeah. They're fucking falling from a large height on a hill death, and that is Spitter. And he accidentally killed his sergeant, so and they're gonna lower the body down, and Spitter's like, I need to go down with him, because he's really fucking distraught about having shot the man. So they tie him together with Napoleon's knot, and they start lowering him down, and then, like, snap! And then they hear the thud, and they're like, oh shit! And then, of course, they see the body on the ground, which does heighten the death, and they realize that the rope was cut. And so I just really like this kill. I think it's like, you feel bad for the guy just because he's going through this shit. And this is also the scene where they lose all of their rope, because this rope's cut, and then while they're fucking, like, freaked out over this, their other ropes are taken. So, I don't know, there's a lot building on this scene, too. Like, it helps, it's part of the Crank-Napoleon storyline, where Crank starts to respect Napoleon, and this is the scene where he makes the rope, and then when it fails, Crank freaks out on Napoleon, and then they're like, oh, it was cut. It was like, he did a good job on that. So, I don't know. The whole scene furthers a lot of stuff. I'm mainly just ranking the kill, of course, but I don't know. I like the blood splatter was cool, even though we didn't see it happen. It, like, I don't know. I'm gonna move on now. Lynn from the original movie getting shot, and yeah, she gets shot in the chest, and she just kind of dies. Like, it's just a gunshot. It's like they don't really do as much. Like, obviously the characters are devastated and it is done well, but the emotions, you don't feel it as much as you do in the remake, you know? And I think that it does hinder it. And plus, it's just unpleasant. But like, I mean, none of these kills are supposed to be that pleasant, I guess, but like, you can enjoy a lot of them. I don't know. But you know, wrong on the numbers a few times, but this is for sure number 29. And it is Wilson, and obviously I don't expect you to know who the fuck that is, but it's the guy in the porta potty. These deaths, the one that was 52nd place and this one are the two that I would want to happen to me the least. Like, he is slit all over his body in non-fatal spots and then dumped in a porta potty in the tank of just filth and shit for God knows how long, just waiting for someone to pop up that wouldn't kill him if he came out of there. And then he dies of septic shock. And Jonathan, I think that's the son that wrote this with him. I don't know how many sons he has. I should have looked that up, but I'm assuming it's those two because he wrote the first two and Jonathan wrote 3. But kudos to them for coming up with that, because that is fucking gruesome. God damn. Fuck. I'm gonna move on, because I just thinking of this death makes me want to throw up. Making a 37 joke when I got to Big Brain, who was in fact 37, not 36, like I said, and whatever I said before that. But, anyway. Now we're at 27. Wait, no. Now we're at 28. This list, and I am smoking, but 28 is Sarge. And Sarge is, I already told you how he died. Spitter, while Stabber, these fucking names. Fucking Stabber stabs Spitter's backpack, which doesn't hurt him, and then runs around, and Crank and Spitter are freaking out, and then Sarge comes up, and then Spitter just shoots the fuck out of him because he's an untrained soldier. They all are pretty untrained, except Sarge. So now they're all fucked because Sarge is now dead, which heightens the kill, but also the hilarity that he's shot by his own men heightens the kill. The emotions of it also heighten the kill. So yeah, while he's just shot like a few other people that are lower, he's high for a reason. Well, I don't know how high you would call 28, but, you know. At 27, we have Lech. I don't expect you to know this fucker's name, but at least it's not one of the ones that's based on his deformity. That, Napoleon very badassly, like, fucking, this military training paid off. He, like, immediately, Achilles tendon, stab in the fucking neck. And then, of course, fuck. Amber then stabs the fuck out of him. And that's fun and neat. Of the death of Mars in the original movie, but it's more brutal, but again, it's not as good. Obviously, that hasn't come up yet, but just the stabbing, but this time it's with a bayonet. It's neat. It's hilarious. I find myself using my copy of Wishmaster 3 more for weed purposes than for anything else. I'm scooping my weed and tobacco into a pile right now. Video on the Wishmaster movies after this. Looked it up, and my inkling to do so at this moment was correct, because we are halfway through. I know I should have known what half of 53 was off the bat, but I didn't. So it's 26.5, so technically we're there. 26th place is Ethel from the remake. Dies pretty much the same way as she does in the original, only realistic in a pretty badass way. And the emotions surrounding both that scene and her actual death are way more emotional, you know? That's really what drags it up above that one. I mean, her flying back from that gunshot and hitting the upper wall, I don't think that's very realistic. I mean, I'm gonna bet my money that that's not how that would go. But the emotions of everything surrounding that, and like how she was gonna like hit him with a fucking thing, it was just really brutal. And the actors in this movie do such a better job. I mean, I guess the mutants are humans, and they're not even really mutants in the original, but the good guys actors do a way better job in this, and I would say the bad guys actors do an almost as good job in this. But that's not the point. And maybe I'm just saying I don't like them as much, and that means they're doing a good job. They also just don't give them as much. It's also more emotional just because they make the character more enjoyable in this movie. So we have Reaper. Is probably he's in competition for the worst bad guy in the franchise. I mean, I would say the people in Hills of Eyes 2 are still worse than Reaper from Part 2. And thank God they have that distinction in title. But, yeah, he's blown up in the bus, but he survives, and then he runs at them on fire, and then Cass waits for him to be close, and then jumps out of the way, and then he falls down a fucking chute, and we see how high it is. It says like 200 some odd feet down, and that's with something that said some odd feet up. So you add those numbers together, he fell like damn near like 290 feet down a hole on fire, and that's pretty cool. Some move on Cass's part, and I really love her character. Franchise that's tied to the first 2 movies, or even the first 3 movies crossover, whoa. Then they should bring Cass back. 6, Mind Ripper 2. Just have that be the title. Fuck, I'd watch that shit. Mean that he's been out there doing this for a long time, but that's the implication anyway. I mean, what's gonna kill him? Red from the original movie, he's the gas station attendant. He's hit a few times with the crowbar, but what really makes his death this much higher is when he's found. It's very boss opens, and he's pinned to it with the crowbar, and yeah, that's pretty fucking cool. And it's just brutal as fuck, because like that was his kid. I mean, we were already told about him burning down his little sister and mom, who I didn't put on this list, but they'd be between the bottom 2 and then the bodies found everywhere. But I didn't include them because we just hear about them. But 23, what does it mean? But no, but that would be Hazmat 1, and he's hit with a pickaxe in the back of the head, and it comes out his like things, like his face. But there's like he's got a mask on, but it's pretty fucking cool. Just first kill of the movie, pretty fucking quick after we see a pretty good CGI fish. And yeah, it's a really good kill. Good opening. Not as good as the next kill, but that's not for a while. 1. Next up we have number 22, which I'm turning this year. Lynn from the remake. She's... God. I'm not including what happens right before that. But she's shot in the head. And the sister's reaction and the sound design of that is just brutal. And then, of course, Doug finding her and Bobby and all of that. It's just so much, and it's so fucked up. And it, like, their emotions of these actors, like, what the... Like, this is the best of the franchise. Spoiler for my Hills of Eyes ranking video, but I'll try not to spoil any of the other placements on that if you haven't seen it, but... God. Just amazing, amazing kill. and then like she starts to move again, and like that could have been a, what do you call it, a spasm, from like in Final Destination, but it could have also just been her last effort to live or whatever. But I think it's probably more of a death twitch, but it gives Doug this last bit of hope, and then she goes, and that makes him start freaking out more. And then of course he thinks to check on the baby, and then the whole scene just, God, I love this movie. But yeah, that kill goes there. It's fucking brutal. From Mind Ripper, and that would be Rob. And one of the likable characters in the movie, even though he is kind of a perving in the beginning, he does apologize for it in a cheesy arc. But he's also just, and that he, God, if you haven't seen Mind Ripper, I'd imagine you're not watching this because I said I was going to tell you all the kills, but the beast Thor is given this injection that changes him, that he has this, like, underneath his tongue there's like a yonic thing, and out of that comes a phallic thing, and he uses that to get brains, uh, like up into the brain, and it's pretty fucking brutal. But that's already an orifice, so it's lower than the other one of those kills. Even though, yeah, you have to go. It's not really that. It's not as bad as the other one of those. So that being the MO, hence the name. Jupiter from the remake. Now, in the remake, Jupiter's like a nothing character. He's in like a couple scenes. He steals the mom's corpse out of the van. Or the truck. I really appreciate that instead of using their mom's corpse as bait like they did in the original for some fucked up reason, instead in this movie they take the corpses and put them in the truck, uh, thinking this will salvage the corpses from being blown up in their trap. It is pretty close to the trailer, but it did work to their benefit, and the truck didn't blow up. But Jupiter steals that body, and then of course Bobby goes and leads him to the RV, and it explodes. And then when they find him, he's on the shrapnel. And then Brenda does a very awesome just with the axe, and the blood splatter on her face. It's very awesome because it's empowering. It's that vengeance, and she gets one of them. Yeah, I don't know. I like that kill. It is lower than the other Jupe ones, is because this character isn't as big as the other character that has this death, even though this death would be better otherwise. If like Jupiter in the remake had the same amount of screen time and story built as Jupiter in the original, this death would probably be higher than that death, but it's not because he isn't. He's just, in this movie, he's just side killer number 5, He's not that memorable in this movie. Enjoy, like I said, that moment for Brenda, and also the whole trap is brilliant. Another explosion, Crank, from Hills of Ice 2. He's the last soldier to die. He grabs a box of dynamite, and then he's like, we're gonna get out of here. And then he walks out of the dynamite room, not realizing that he's pulling a fucking wire. Feel the box of dynamite has something snagging, or that it's slowly pulling something. Like, I feel like everyone would feel that, right? Because like he pulls the detonator off of the other fucking dynamite boxes, falls, and he's just has one last moment to be like, fuck, before it explodes. He's dead. He was in pieces, but instead of having the explosion like burn him up and fling him against the fucking other side of the roof, either way he's dead. But yeah, no, it's pretty fucking cool. Explosive rage that dying of an explosion is pretty funny. Which is Hades, my least favorite of the villains. And he does his resemblance is the most similar to Reaper from the second movie. Borrow the military, like the government military idea from 3, and they have this character that's kind of like this character from the second one. So this movie's kind of like a love note to that whole other subsection of the movies. But I hate this character for obvious reasons. His death, however, is pretty fucking good. First, he's shot in the brain, and that doesn't kill him immediately. Ugh. But like, then he's like fingered in that brain, and then he gets a sledgehammer to the balls, which is awesome. And then of course that final like bayonet to the fucking mouth, which is like this really long knife instead of a sword, but still just in the fucking head. Final shot by Napoleon, and then they're just sitting there like, great. From the original movie at 17th place. Pretty similar to the kill from the other movie, but like I said, this character is the main villain, and he's the boss of the villains, so it has more meaning. And this time the explosion, again, doesn't kill him, but he gets axed twice by Brenda, and then Bobby shoots him twice, and then he just kind of slowly dies. I'll say execution-wise, it isn't as good as the other kill, but it is better just because you want this guy to die more. And so it has that bigger impact, and it is still the siblings sharing their victory kill, their vengeance. Because Doug is the one who kills Mars, and of course, Beast kills Mercury and Pluto. And so it's fitting that these two also get a kill in Jupiter. Kill someone who killed their family. The trap idea is genius, however this one did it first, so that also gains it points. And I think it's very... And this guy is basically... He's the Mercury of the remake, and he dies the way Pluto did in the original. The dog rips out his jugular, like his whole like Adam's apple area, and just like blood spews, and then he fucking dies. And I think it's better than getting pushed off a fucking cliff. And yeah, it's fucking brutal. This is where that lands. Because the coffee I drank earlier hit an ulcer or something, because I just got caffeine rush. Drink some apple juice. We're in our top 15. And number 15 is Hazmat 2, the last of the Hazmats. He's hit in the back with like a pickaxe, and then he's literally picked up and slammed into a bunch of fucking rocks. Brutal, perfect opening to the movie. You get that quick fucking just head kill from earlier, and that's like, whoa. And then you get this, and you're just like, okay, this is gonna be great. And it just slams him around. It's pretty fucking cool. And them people in the desert could use some water. Only drink clean. Sorry, that was stupid. I'm just really happy. And he's grabbed by the ankle and then pulled into a small hole. But he has this leg like this, and it snaps up like that. And actually, I think it might have been the other leg, but I'm more confident I wouldn't have tipped the bong over with this leg. Way that like rips his fucking groin and taint apart. And there's like a bunch of blood. The blood's not... It's CGI blood, but like the gruesomeness of the idea and like the violence of which he's yanked. And the two who have perfect reactions, because she's dating him, she freaks out, and he's like, this is the... Like, they just saw someone else die, but this is the first person that they know and liked that died, and so he has that moment, and they're both do a really good job of that. And like the kill itself is just brutal. They're not important, that were way lower on the list. And when they find him, he's like missing his lower half from like the ribs cage down. That's not really playing a part in his placement, but yeah, like that kill's fucking awesome. Character from Mind Ripper, that cool fucking mouth thing I was talking about earlier, stabs him in the fucking eye to the brain, which is just a far more brutal way to do that than the other kill I mentioned of it. Obviously, it's higher. And this character is just a hateable character. He intentionally sped up the process to make Thor the way he is. Whereas if they'd have just given him that one dose, they might have realized it was a bad idea before it was too late. And then, of course, he, like... Well, yeah, and he causes Lyria's death, like I said earlier. And then he takes the others by shotgun point and forces them to hunt for this beast with holes with syringes full of, like, I'm assuming something that knocks him out, horse tranquilizer or something. It says it can take down an elephant. I'm still not confident. If they'd have stabbed that guy with it, then it would have worked. They stab Alex with one of them, and he doesn't even pass out. He just gets woozy, so that's, like... If it's not even going to work on him, then why would it work on... Anyway. Then he gets pulled up into the vent, and I've only seen this movie twice, and both times I was like, is that his death? But then, no, he's tied up, and of course you get that awesome moment with the eye. And it's a comeuppance, and I think it's great. Is a kill that I would say, these are all top tier from here on out. Probably some of the other ones below are top tier too, but this is like, this is where it started to get really hard for me. Up next we have Mars. And Mars is killed by Doug and Ruby. Ruby takes a snake and gets him in the back of the neck with it. And I don't know if it was venomous or not. I'm assuming that type of snake isn't, if they were able to film that, but maybe it was defanged. And it was poisonous. I don't know, but then Doug gets the upper hand and just stabs the fucking fuck out of him. And, you know, he has it coming. Of course he has it coming. The stab impacts aren't as realistic as... Perfect. Just, like, of course, you're gonna have the same reaction. Like, you're gonna... no matter what you think you're gonna do in that situation, if you live long enough to get to that point, you're gonna stab the same way. I think what I would have done is, this is going to sound fucked up, but I would have stabbed both of the thighs, going for the arteries, then the dick, and then I would have stabbed the neck for the spinal cord, and the order of which is just in case I got disarmed at any point. But that's because I have read the Anarchist Cookbook, and I take family very seriously. Anyway, family. So I can't imagine I would have a different reaction if it was my baby. I would have probably a more visceral reaction. And number 11 is Pluto from the original. And, you know, this is way better than his death in the second movie, of course, and that is getting his neck attacked by the dog and just ravaged. And I know that they, obviously, him dying in the second one tells you they retconned this death, but in my mind, he's fucking dead, you know? And him being resurrected is part of my problem with him being... It's probably my problem with the second movie, but I'm just gonna ignore that and say, this death is amazing, you know? Like, just the fucking, like, first of all of the family members that survive get a revenge kill. And this is Beast's second, actually, and he gets to fuck Pluto up. And Pluto is the one that killed Beauty. It's, toxic relationships, but that's not the point. At least the Disney version does. Fucking ravaged like that is brutal as fuck. And I like the hand, like, just slowly dying part. That's great. Yeah. And now we're in our top 10. 1 kill from the original, 2 from the second movie, 1 from Mind Ripper, 5 from the remake, but one of them's a twofer. It's only going to get 4 spots. And 2 from the latest movie. And in 10th place is Cyst. Didn't name the character. He's got headgear and a bunch of boils and cysts on his face. And this is another great badass Doug moment. I love the remake where he gets hit several times with the axe, and then you see the awesome ass axe flip, where it goes from the part you cut wood with to the pick, and he hits him right in the fucking face with it. And you know these mutants have it fucking coming. Like, I hate the mutants in these fucking movies, and I'm so happy when they die. Different name than his original counterpart when Ethel doesn't, but shotgun like this and just poof. Brutal, amazing, real, just The Hills Have Eyes 2 from 2007, and it is Jesus fucking Christ. They can't even name the characters that aren't mutants after something fucked up with them. And his name's Stump. And he has all of his arms and legs at the time, but he gets his arm fucking chopped off. And then blood squirts out, of course. And then he's held up with one arm. And then the mutant waves at him with his severed arm, which is just awesome. And then he drops him, and we watch as he falls down and splats. Which... this is the only one of those falls off of a hill to the death where we see the impact below. And I love that. And just the whole arm part was fun, too. I really love this kill. Obviously, it's number 8 out of fucking 53. So, there you go. The first kill mentioned as the worst kill, and the last kill... like the first movie to have its last placement. So that's neat. Doesn't line up that way. Whose name I didn't realize until after, because I thought it was like Hawk, but I guess I just misheard them. It's Hulk, which is something. He's riding a motorcycle, and then this long-ass motherfucking spear just shoots him. And it was a great fucking stunt, because it looks like it really goes in him, first of all, but then he, like, falls off the bike. And, yeah, no, it was really fucking cool. It went, like, right through him, stuck, and he flew off the back of the motorcycle onto the ground, and that was a real stunt. And it was badass, and it was by far better than anything up until that point in that movie. Well, as far as graphicness, the dog flashback is still the best moment of that movie to me. And, like, when she fights back Cass's scenes, and then the dog flashback. Or maybe no, that flashback was so funny. I'm gonna move on, though. And number 5 is Bob. Get that out of the way now that they're right there. And the original, while having like more of the stabbing in the hands and the setup of it, and just some brutal lines there, and like the main thing that draws it back is that the face melting is more fake, and the family's acting is worse. Like particularly Bobby. Like, he's on fire, it's brutal, the idea that this is a trap and a diversion, like, it's amazing. Obviously, these 2 kills are really high. What bumps the remake above the original is, like I said, the acting on the family's part is just way more real and brutal. The fire looks way more fucking torturous. Like you can see it like engulfing the arm, and like his face melting and his eyes boiling over and turning white. Like in the original fake dummy face. And uh it's I don't know. The remake just does it better. Because it's just so brutal. They're on fire. It's fucking great, you know? What can I say? And the brutality of the family finding him too, and the whole scene of that being the diversion, it's just good writing. The character more in the remake, which pretty much goes all Mind Ripper. And this is Mark, who's plucked right out of a fucking Friday the 13th movie, even more so than the Part 2 cast. And he's just a teenager that just wants to fuck. That's his whole fucking character. He's just horny the whole goddamn time. And he's dating our lead's daughter. And I've seen this in two other things. I've seen it in the Scream TV series. Hated it there. I love it in Freddy vs. Jason. But I like it even more in this movie. Because it's the time I've seen it where it was done practically. And the character being so... Three, because the other two I mentioned all were introduced in the scene they died in. So, yeah, and this was like the only kill of the teenagers in this movie, because the other two are obviously Lance Hendrickson's character's kids. So, you can't kill them without making the movie way too fucked up. Even though it's supposed to be a part 3 of Hills Have Eyes. So it should be fucked up, but I don't know. I like that the people that live. I might not have had Joanne live, but I mean, it makes sense to have her live too, but then there's only 5 kills. I don't know, but this is where that kill goes. Head spun the fuck around, bloody as fuck. Falls over. We're in our top 3. Now there's a whole badass fight scene with just awesome choreography, a wrong turn reference where dude gets he gets 2 fingers cut off, gets fucking whipped the fuck around, and he's finally alone. Well, he's alone the whole time, but he's finally like in the room with Pluto, on his knees, and he's got like and it's not a pencil, I don't think, but he's got something, a screwdriver. And he fakes that he's faking to like beg for his life. And when they start mocking him and they're distracted, he's like the moment seized, and then he fucking stabs him in the foot. And then he gets up and he takes this American flag out of Bob's burnt head and stabs it through Pluto's, like, the back of his neck. And then takes an axe and just fucking slams it in his fucking head. And it is just perfect. It is great. It is the triumphant moment. It's like that moment that steps him towards being a badass, because this is the first time he kills one of them. And it's just cements this movie as that perfect revenge tale, like this and the other kills that happen after it too, but like this starts that unfolding, and I really love it. But yeah, just having this character, like this fight scene building up to this scene, definitely heightens this kill just because of the intensity of the moment, but also just everything it means for Doug to be doing this, the stakes at hand. Ah, God. You should know what they are. One's a double kill from the remake, and one is from the second movie, which I was surprised watching all these movies that one from the second movie would make it this high, but it's pretty fucking brutal, and it's number 2. It's the last kill from the second movie, and it is Susan who gets her fucking throat slit, and it's one of the best throat slits I've seen. I mean, it's not Friday the 13th, but it's like it's wide as fuck, the blood gushes a whole fuckload. It's the most brutal kill of the original timeline. It's, well, maybe not the most brutal kill of the original timeline, but my favorite of the original timeline. Because, like, it's just so awesome. The blood. And especially when you're watching the second movie, like, it's so much better than all those kills. I mean, that spear one's really cool, but that's more based on, like, idea and stunt work than gore. This is the only really gory kill of the movie, and it's worth it. It's fucking brutal. In the remake. Now, I'm including Lizard getting hit with the fucking shotgun, like, fucking a bunch of times, and then shot a few times as part of this kill, which heightens it, but also just the emotionalness of, like, Ruby and them both dying. Like, she fully redeemed herself at that point. I mean, I'm wearing a red hoodie right now based on this character. And, God, I love it. Like, because on one hand, this is the most hateable mutant of the movie. He's the one you want to see die the most. Heroic figure that's been put through hell, that is risking her whole life and foundation to save a baby, and she kills herself, the baby, and her father. And so it's like, not only is it the most triumphant and amazingly, like, yes moment, but it's also a very sad and tragic moment at the same time, and that is why it's number one. Let me know your top, whatever, how many ever you feel comfortable doing, because I don't expect everyone to do the top 53. Fuck. I don't even know if I want to read that. But, yeah. If you hit the bell, make sure you personalize it, because I do other shit on this channel. And, like and subscribe and all that bullshit. And check out the other Hills Have Eyes videos that I have on here.